What's happening, guys? It's your girl Mina. Welcome back to my channel. Of course, man, you guys know what it is. Happy Friday. I hope you all had a wonderful day. You don't know what it is, man. When it's Friday, I'm just happy that it's the weekend. I'm not gonna lie. But lately, I ain't been happy when United are playing. Of course, you guys know what it is. Friday night lights, normally at 7 p.m., but doing it an hour earlier today because the women are playing at 7:30 p.m. and I'll be doing a watch along for that, so you lot can stop by for that. Big up to everyone in the chat as always. Big up to Adam. Big up to Eric. Appreciate the support as always, man. You lot know what it is. Big fixture. You know what, guys? It's actually funny. Every week I find myself saying it's a big game. It's a must win. And again this week, I have myself saying it's a big game and it's a must win. Now, at home, last season, I was always confident. I was always confident at home that we could get a result, get a comfortable win and a good performance. But you don't know how the season has started off this year. Very shaky. We're in October. I would have hoped by like September we turned it around, but we're yet to do that. A lot of issues in the dressing room, of course, regarding Jadon Sancho, which Ten Hag spoke about, saying that Sancho's the only person basically still not available. Aside from all the other injuries, Anthony expected to be back. Reguilon will not be back in time. Brentford, you don't know what happened last season. Even though it was away, they still gave us a bad game, horrible game. I don't even want to talk about that one. But we're going to talk about the Brentford game as well. Of course, going to talk about a few things that Eric Ten Hag said in the press conference. I think the women's team, the lineups will come out during the stream. So if people want to chat about that, we can chat about that. Big up to Adam, says, just make the most of tonight before the inevitable. Listen, Manchester United women got me in a good place right now. Yeah, Manchester United men, not so much. But I already told you, like, I'm invested in the men's team, but now this year I'm invested very heavily as well in the women's team as well. And I told you, lot, if you lot, because I've seen people saying that they're moving away from watching the team, and you know it's not good for their mental health. It's just not good for their emotions and their mood. Listen, guys, I'm not joking, bro. Come and watch the women's team. Yeah, at least you know game in, game out, you're getting 100% on the pitch. And even if you ain't into women's football, trust me, this could be the best time to actually get into it. But we're going to start with, of course, Brentford tomorrow. Another 3 p.m. kickoff. It's like the FA don't like us and they just keep giving us 3 p.m. kickoffs. Now, I'm going to read some quotes quickly from the press conference before we kind of dive into what I would say is previewing the game. But it's not really previewing. It's just me saying, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. Simple as that. It's crazy that we're at a point like this because there was times last season we were going into games very optimistic, expecting to win. And now I'm very much in a place where I just don't know what's going to happen game in, game out. It's very difficult, I think, to preview games because you don't know what sort of performances we're going to get. You don't really know. Honestly, forget about even the performances. We don't even know what even lineups we're going to see to start off. But I'm going to quickly pull up some quotes from Eric Ten Hag. Big up to Troy, says, Mina, are you doing a watch along for the women's game? Yes, I am. Link is already live. So if you just go onto my channel and then go to live, you'll see the link is live and you can turn on your post notifications there. Brentford. Let's start with that. Let's start with that. Talk about United feels like therapy. Listen, there's only so much therapy you can have. I think there's only so much therapy you can have. There's only so much we can talk about the problems that we have on the pitch. How do you lot think we're going to line up tomorrow? I think Anthony is back in the starting lineup. He's had about a week and a bit now to train with the team since his return. So I anticipate that he will be back on the right-hand side. That probably means it'll be back to that 4-2-3-1 that we play with. Bruno back in that 10. Mount, Casemiro. I don't want to see Amrabat at left back, but it looks like we'll probably have Amrabat at left back again. You lot already know my stance on Amrabat playing left back. It's just wasted. It's just wasted. So I don't want to see that there. Of course, I think the big games this weekend is probably the Arsenal versus City is probably the big game that everyone will be talking about. But I think this one will be a big game. Equally, I think it will be a very important game. I think it's important for us, but also for Brentford. I don't want to say it. And now that I've said that I don't want to say it, I kind of have to say it. But I think Brentford haven't won in like 5 games. I think they haven't. I might be wrong. Let me double check. Just to be sure. Brentford fixtures, because I'm sure they haven't won a lot of games of recent. And you guys know what that means. That means they. I'm actually not even lying. They haven't. They had the last time they won a game was Fulham, second game of the season. They won 3-0 away from home. Since then, they've drawn against Crystal Palace. They've drawn with Bournemouth. They lost to Newcastle. They lost to Everton. They lost to Arsenal. That was in the EFL Cup. And then, of course, they lost. They drew with Nottingham Forest. Now, I don't want to be the one to mention it. I didn't want to be the one to mention it because it seems that every time teams are coming in needing a win, or they haven't won in 5 in this instance, or they haven't won at Old Trafford for X number of years, records get broken. Every single time. It's very frustrating, I think. And that's what I'm saying. I think tomorrow's game in particular is equally important for Manchester United, and it'll be equally as important for Brentford, because they don't want to be six games without a win. Manchester United need to pick up form. No better place than to pick up form at home. I think the biggest difficulty is that starting lineup. You just know it's not that the starting lineup isn't good enough. Because personally, guys, you lot might not agree with me, but I feel like a lot of these players are capable of playing in Manchester United in a rotation format. A lot of these players, especially the back line, are not first choice players. Amrabat is in our left back. Dalot is not first choice. Lindelof is not first choice. Whoever was playing on the right hand side, whether it was Pellistri, Bruno was playing there, and Hannibal was playing through the middle. These players are rotation players, and if they're not good enough to play on rotation, then they are not good enough to play for Manchester United at all. So I don't think you lot might agree with me on that. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think you'll agree with me on that, but that's all right. However, one thing I will say is that Bruno, Rashford, you lot already know what I'm gonna. I think it's kind of obvious you lot know what I'm gonna say. Let me know in the chat if you think Bruno and Rashford will be dropped tomorrow, because I personally don't think Ten Hag will drop them. I think he made it clear today in the press conference. I think he was asked a question about Rashford, and he was basically saying like players lose form and they just need one goal to kind of kickstart that. And I think solely for that reason, I don't think Ten Hag will bench him. I mean, he's been taking him off. The first game he took him off. I think it was like 80th minute. Then the second time he took him off, it was more like early 70th minute. So it's getting earlier and earlier in terms of when he's getting taken off. But I don't think Ten Hag will bench him. In my personal opinion, I think it will be a similar lineup that we saw midweek, probably minus Hannibal. I think Anthony will come in. But in terms of that midfield, Casemiro, Mount, Bruno, Højlund. One thing I was very not impressed by, but I was intrigued by that. A lot of the questions to Thomas Frank, Brentford's manager, today in the press conference was really about Højlund and about how they're going to deal with Højlund. And he had a lot of praise for Højlund about his physicality, his strength, his acceleration, like how he can just, pick up speed so quickly, and his eye for goal. So clearly managers, I think, are starting to catch on. I think managers are starting to catch on with him. Adam clearly does not rate Ten Hag, calling him Ole Gunnar Hag, just as stubborn as Ole. Big up to Alumba, says, no confidence, we are losing. And how the mighty have fallen, guys. It's crazy that we say, like, oh, we're going to lose. Oh, we're going to lose. These are games that we should be coming into so confident, that we would win. But Manchester United right now are in a place where we just don't look good. But I believe tomorrow we can get something. Like it says in the title, guys, nothing less than 3 points. I'm not going to lie, guys. If we draw, I think that's bad. I'm at a point right now where every 3 points matter. It's the same criticism that I have for the relegation teams right now, basically saying, like, when it's the relegation teams, I say that, against other relegation teams, you should be aiming for 3 points, nothing less than that, because that's your rivals. Whereas us, I'm saying that we should be we're not even on double-digit points in the table yet. You know how crazy that is? Let me draw up the table quickly. Let me pull up the table, because it's kind of crazy that we're not even on double digits. We're lucky to be 10th right now, because we're the only team in the top half of the table that are not on double digits. The closest team to us is obviously Palace. Man City got double our points with 18. Tottenham, all of them at the top of the table. And the gap between us And Bournemouth is basically 6 points. That's 2 games. Do you know how funny that is? That's actually kind of funny. Below us, we got Chelsea. But then after that, it's the likes of Nottingham Forest, Brentford on 7 points, which is why I said this is a must-win for them as well. I think the goal difference is horrible for us as well. It's a minus. We're the only team in the top half right now with minus goal difference. Even though it's -4, that is still not good enough. I think the biggest issue for us, and obviously we could talk about the cohesion, we could talk about mentality. I think the biggest issue is mentality when it comes to us scoring. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like there was a time where we would score one, then we'd try score a second, we'd try score a third, a fourth, whatever. We'd try score as much as we could, or we try create as many goal scoring opportunities as possible. Now it seems like when we score, we're just so overwhelmed and excited to have scored, and we're content. Heads drop and we just concede straight away. I saw a stat. I think it's like the last 3 games. So not the last 3 games, but like it was like the Arsenal game, the Bayern game, the Galatasaray game, and it was showing the difference of the timing that we score and then the timing that we concede, and it was ridiculous. It was literally like 3 minutes in total. For me, I don't think that's acceptable. I want to see Mount play a full 90. I don't think have we seen him play a full 90 since he's joined. I don't think we have, because obviously he went off a bit injured. I think it was like after the 3rd game of the season. I don't think we've seen him play a full 90. But you guys, I think we already see the value that he adds, the difference that he adds. I said it midweek after the Galatasaray game. He was unfortunate to actually be subbed off, because I personally would have taken off Bruno in that game, because I feel like Mount offered a lot more. But if Mount can continue to like pick up this positive form that he's picking up, I think he will be a game changer for us in game, especially in possession, and even, to be honest, out of possession. I think he'll be a game changer for us. Whether he plays 90, I'm not too sure, because I feel like Ten Hag likes to manage people's minutes, and we have quite a bit of midfielders. I know last year we complained about not having enough midfielders, but on the bench, we literally have Hannibal as an option. We've got Ericsson. We've got Scott McTominay. Of course, I know a lot of you lot don't want to hear that, but we've got Scott McTominay. So we got options available off the bench in midfield. So that's why I don't really think Mount will see the full 90 out unless Bruno ends up getting subbed off or someone else gets subbed off. But in terms of that back line, I've got some strong words. I'll be honest. I've got some strong words for Raphael Varane, guys. I've got some words for Raphael Varane, because you lot know the last few games, I have not been impressed with his performances. But equally so, I ain't been really impressed with Lindelof either. I ain't been impressed with the whole defense. Dalot, embarrassing. Andre Onana, embarrassing. Amrabat, embarrassing. Varane, I have a bit of lenience to Amrabat because he's playing out of position, but still embarrassing. Varane, Lindelof, not good enough. Not playing as a complete unit, not playing as a duo as they should. But defensively, I think the biggest issue that we might face is, because Brentford, I think, are fighting for 3 points. I think Brentford will be fighting for 3 points. We'll be fighting for 3 points. I think they would equally want the. I don't think a draw will be good enough for them. And like I said, a draw for us tomorrow. We need those 3 points. But I think defensively, I'll be more impressed that we are in solid shape. Because you know what? United, we're always going to create chances. I don't know about scoring, but we'll always create chances. And I just feel like creating those chances should go hand in hand with playing good defensively. Because you know what they say, football starts from the back. Football starts from the back. So if we are good in defense, hopefully there's a lot more confidence in the keeper. I would be shocked. Let me know if you lot want Onana dropped in the comments. But I personally would be shocked if Onana was to be dropped. Because I feel like for the same reason I don't think Rashford should be dropped, I think it's the same reason that Onana should not be dropped. I feel like if the manager drops senior players or starting players from a lineup after 2-3 bad performances, I feel like that's a fragile mentality that will occur for that player as well. So I don't think Onana should be dropped. I've seen people saying Beytinder, I think that's his name, the Turkish goalkeeper should play a game or two. I've seen people saying that. I don't necessarily agree, because I just feel like, you you kick a man when he's down, basically, essentially, when you bench him. I would like to see Onana play, but equally so, I would like to see better performances from Andre Onana. I would like to see better passes. You know, when we brought Andre Onana, it was under the guise that we were buying a goalkeeper that's like a midfielder with his feet. Basically, he can ping passes. He's good on the ball. You know, he's unpressable because he can pass with both feet. He's got great vision, etc. That's what we were told when we were buying him. Obviously, we even saw that in the Champions League, and you saw that if you watched any Inter games. So I would like to see what we brought you for. Of course, the shot stopping and saving. I want to see you claiming crosses off your line. I don't want to see you coming off your line and flapping around in the air like you're trying to swim or something. I don't want to see any of that. I don't want to see what I saw in the Galatasaray game, which for me, horrible. It was horrible. That third goal, the chip from Icardi that we conceded, for me, was equally a fault on the defense as well as the goalkeeper. Because if you don't remember, Onana was on the 6-yard box. He was in the 6-yard box on the line. From the time that Icardi picked up the ball all the way to when he chipped it, he was stationary in the same spot. Meaning, Icardi looked up and probably thought, I'm going to chip this keeper because he's already off his line anyway. He didn't come off his line quick enough. We were told that, you know, he's quick on his feet. He can read the ball well. He can read the opponent well. We were told that. He didn't do that. If tomorrow I see another goalkeeper mistake, because at that point it'll be 3 games in a row. If it's 3 games in a row, I think then you have to think, okay, what's going on? Because I can't lie, and it makes me actually question Manchester United just as a whole, is how can a goalkeeper go from the level that he was in June at the, or I think it was end of May, in the Champions League final? How can a keeper go from that level to down here in the space of 3 months? How can that happen? And that's why I say it's a mentality thing. I think it's a mentality thing. And I don't know what it is when players come to Manchester United, mentality just goes in the bin. You know, that strong-mindedness, that being strong-willed, you know, mentally strong, all of that kind of stuff. If you lot talking about mentally strong, I don't know if any of you guys have watched the Beckham documentary. I was watching the David Beckham documentary on Netflix. It's on Netflix, by the way, if anybody wants to watch it. And what he had to put up with, after the 98 World Cup was absolutely horrible. Talking about and I'm bringing this up about mentality, because I think in this day and age, no footballer would survive it. Glenn Hoddle, basically the England manager. If you guys don't know, I'll give you a quick summary, and I'm not ruining it because this is the documentary. It's real life. Everybody knows about this. But basically, 98 World Cup against Argentina, I think it was in the round of 16, England versus Argentina. Obviously, it was the first time that they came up against each other since the Maradona handball incident. I think that was like in the 80s. So this is 98. Glenn Hoddle called up Beckham after, you know, his first 2 years at Manchester United, which was, you know, he was very impressive. Nobody could play a pass like him. Anyway, he got England call up. Long story short, round of 16, he ended up getting sent off for kicking out. And I'm not going to lie, he did kick him. It was Diego Simeone that he actually kicked. But Diego Simeone milked it a little bit, like he did, to be honest, before VAR. And then he got sent off. England, as a result, it ended up going to penalties and they lost. And basically, he became the most hated man in the UK on the face of newspapers. They were like 10 heroic lions and 1 useless boy. I saw one newspaper like that. They were asking the Prime Minister questions about it. They were asking the manager, the England manager, and the England manager was basically feeding him to the wolves non-stop. And his, like, you know, Gary Neville talks about it. Roy Keane in the documentary talks about it. They talk about how he just basically like nearly lost it because everybody was just butchering him. And he talks about how he was appreciative of Sir Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex Ferguson called him whilst he was away on his holiday in the summer and was like to him, listen, when you come back, don't worry, we got you. He came back to club football. He was getting hate every stadium they go to. He was getting booed. He was getting hounded. Somebody sent bullets in a letter to Carrington. So much stuff happened, yeah. And the reason why I'm talking about mentality, because when I watched that, I was like, raw. a manager fully fed his player to the wolves. I'm not comparing it, by the way, to Sancho and Ten Hag, yeah? But a manager, your player got sent off, and instead of you to stick up for your player, you fed him to the wolves, let the country rip him apart, the media, everything. And this is before the days of social media, guys. So newspapers were a big thing, radio was a big thing, television obviously was a big thing. They ripped him apart so bad. And what happened that year? He came back to Manchester United, obviously. Sir Alex had his back. Roy Keane in the documentary was like how basically when players used to wind him up on the pitch, obviously the crowd's booing him, everybody's booing him. Roy Keane was like, listen, like, you've got players to back you. So Roy Keane would be squaring up with people. And I'm thinking, right, they don't make them like this anymore. They don't make them like this. Sir Alex Ferguson took him under his wing. And what happened? United went on to win the treble that year. And it was Beckham's two corners. If you don't remember, 99 Champions League final, it was his two corners that basically helped the comeback. Straight after that, he was the most loved man again. He got married to Victoria Beckham, had his kid, all of that stuff. And now that I look at football and I'm like, and Rio Ferdinand brings up a very valid point in the documentary. And I'm sorry, guys, if you don't want to watch it, please, I think it's a really good documentary. You should watch it. Rio Ferdinand brings up a valid point because he was like, back then, you know, he was like, clubs never used to talk to players about mentality. They never used to talk about what's going on mentally, mental health, all of that stuff. So what Beckham was going through, he was like, it was very difficult for him because till today, he probably still hasn't dealt with it. And I'm like, nowadays, I think obviously because of social media, because of accessibility, because of all of that stuff, back then, footballers, like, I think David Beckham was probably one of, obviously there was Ronaldinho, there was Zidane, all of that, but I think Beckham was famous because of his marketability. He was an English footballer playing for the biggest club, Manchester United, England national team, but he was also dating Victoria Beckham, sorry. If you lot remember, she's from the Spice Girls. Spice Girls was one of the biggest groups of the 90s, one of the biggest groups ever, I think. So his status in society was, you know, they were this power couple, you know, singer, footballer. Nowadays, every footballer is famous. It don't matter. You don't need to be married to a famous singer to be a famous footballer. If you are a footballer and you play for a Premier League, club, you are famous. You will get stopped in the streets. People will recognize you because football has evolved. Football has grown. And as a result of that, criticism has grown. You got people like fan channels. You've got podcasts. You've got YouTubers. You got everything that will share their opinion about footballers and whatnot. And this is why I always say to be like cautious with the way that you speak about, not cautious, but be respectful in the way that you speak about people, because footballers are people at the end of the day. That's one thing that the documentary showed me. And I think with players that are not in form, particularly right now, the likes of Rashford, the likes of Bruno, the likes of like Onana, I feel like dropping them would add a whole load of new, what's the word? I wouldn't say abuse, but criticism to them. Because people will now be like, oh yeah, see, manager don't rate you. You're not good enough for the club. Oh, look at you. You got dropped by your manager. Oh, we need to get rid of you. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I just went on a whole rant about Beckham. Players like Rashford, Bruno are not top-class players. We had this conversation the other day. We were talking about the number of world-class players. Guys, based on when we say about world-classness or whatever, I know a lot of people base it on an overall career span. But if we were to base, you know, periods in the team, who has really had a world-class season at Manchester United? Be honest, guys. Please be honest with me. In the last 10 years, I could say David De Gea had one world-class season. I could say he had one world-class season. If I said Pogba, you guys would shoot me. Pogba, again, I don't know if you guys heard about that news, but Pogba looks like his career might be over. Bruno was very effective in his first 18 months, but world class, I feel like that title it's thrown around a lot. It's thrown around a lot. And don't you lot, okay, so you like no one. You guys are saying no one. You're inviting the hyenas. Nah, it's just because of the Pogba news today. If you're not aware, Paul Pogba has been found guilty of doping. I think it was like testosterone. He tested positive for like testosterone doping, which could see him get banned up to 4 years from football. And now Juve are also reviewing what they're going to do with his contract, likely going to terminate it. So he was suspended apparently since September the 11th. He was suspended without pay. And now that he's tested positive again, which means it is still in his body, the substance is still in his body, he can get 4 years. And also Juve will, it's most likely, I think Juve will terminate his contract because they've been trying to get rid of him anyway, and he's broken his contract, so he ain't getting no money. And the only way he could get 2 years is if he can prove that it wasn't intentional doping. I think that's quite difficult to prove sometimes. So it's safe to say at the age of 30, Pogba's career is over. And you lot know I'm very sad about that. You lot know I'm very sad about that. I think that Pogba from 2015 to 2020, it was a privilege to watch, especially 2018, 2019, 2020. It was a privilege. Can he go US? No, I think he's banned. He can't play at all. It's not like a UEFA ban. I think it's like a complete football ban. Unless he goes somewhere like, I don't know, Saudi maybe. Is he only banned in Italy? No, I think he'll be banned from all football associations because, especially in Europe, I think he'll be banned from Europe for sure. I don't know if he'll be banned. I don't know if he would be banned in any other countries. But if he's not banned in other countries, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Saudi. I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised he didn't go this summer. I know that they were trying to get him off, but I'm surprised that he didn't go. Lol, he said we would regret not offering him a contract. How does one dope? The doping thing is weird. It's like, I don't know. It's if you're intentionally doping, that means you're taking stuff that. Because I know athletes in terms of, I know long distance runners. Yeah, I know long distance runners, and even like certain medications, they are very picky with what they take. Because some normal ibuprofen, like painkiller, they'll make sure it's literally just that because they know that they will always have urine tests done, blood tests done all the time. There'll be times where I think like as a long distance runner, I don't know what their name is, but like that athletics association will just, if you leave the country. So right now, if I go on holiday and I'm a long distance runner, say I'm Mo Farah, I leave the country, I go on holiday to Italy. When I go to Italy, I have to notify the athletics federation that I'm in Italy. I have to give them the address of whatever hotel I'm staying at, or if I say I'm staying at a relative's house, I have to give them the address because at any point they can just come to you and do a test. And that's why they are always very picky with the kind of painkillers they take, etc. Because the only way I think you can prove that it wasn't intentional is if you say that my coach was giving me this and I didn't know, because it's happened in athletics a lot. In football, I don't know how the hell you get done for doping in football. Saudi is probably anti-drugs, I imagine. I imagine so. They're bidding for 2034. They won that 2034 World Cup, so I think they will probably stay clear of Pogba. That's what I'm saying. It's safe to say his career is over when this is his second prime. Like when you're 30, that's basically you've got your last 2-3 years at a high level before you start kind of declining. I think it's sad. It's sad, but it clearly didn't work out at Manchester United for a reason. It hasn't worked out at Juve for a reason. He's got a lot more off the pitch stuff, I think, drama that follows him than you would like. But back to the question. In the last 10 years, guys, tell me one world-class season that anyone has had in a Manchester United shirt. Tell me one more. Just one. If you lot can tell me one, I'll end the stream right now. Because I genuinely don't think, like, the other day I was delusional. Someone asked me a question and said, how many world-class players does Manchester United have? I think we need to move away from class players. We could talk about them, obviously, over the course of their career. But I also think we should be pragmatic enough to analyze them based off their time at the club. For example, and I'll give you guys an example. Everyone's Casemiro, world class. I hear it all the time. But if we were to base it just off his time at Manchester United, because you're a United fan, but if you look at it as a football fan, obviously you would base his entire career. Same with the likes of Rafael Varane from the past, even the likes of Ibrahimovic. Ibrahimovic, who just did an interview with Piers Morgan and said some weird stuff about the Glazers, each to their own, of course. But I feel like when we analyze things over the course of one person's career versus if we analyze it over the course of their time at a specific club, you might get two different answers. I think you might get two different answers. Dele Alli too had mental health issues, exactly, and I know a lot of people compare the Jadon Sancho thing to the Dele Alli thing. I think every situation is different, but Dele Alli is a prime example of you don't know what a player is going through in their personal life, which is why I always say criticize. We can discuss, we can criticize, but don't abuse players. Don't abuse players because you don't know what they're going through at the end of the day, footballers are humans. That's one thing we always forget. We look at footballers like these people of status. We look at them as celebrities. We look at them, some people look at them as idols. I don't, but some people look at them as idols. But you have to remember, under all those layers of that stuff, footballers are just people. They're humans at the end of the day, meaning they have emotions, which is why about the Jadon Sancho thing, I'm very cautious about the way that I talk about it and what I say, because you never know the full picture. I mean, no one knew the full picture about Dele Alli's situation until he did his interview and he spoke about it. Same with Jesse Lingard. Nobody knew what was happening. There was a time in Jesse Lingard's career where he was not playing for the senior team, and you'd never see him in the training pictures, etc. Nobody knew what was happening. And I remember people saying, oh, look at him, you know, stealing a living, making 100K, blah, blah, blah. But no one knew what was going on behind closed doors. And then obviously he did that interview. I think it was with Steve Bartlett and the Diary of a CEO. And then that's when you were kind of more privy to know. But at that point is years later and people have moved on from it. In that moment, we just have to be sensitive with the way we talk about stuff, which is why I encourage us always, you know, don't abuse players. Don't be too harsh. We can criticize them as footballers and criticize the way that they play, etc. But when we talk about mentality, we have to remember there's things outside of football that can affect your mentality. A perfect example. Sorry, guys, I don't want to talk about the Beckham documentary again, but in the Beckham documentary, they speak about it as well. The way, you know, his love life was impacting the way that he was playing on the pitch. There was a point where his love life was impacting the way that he was playing on the pitch, and apparently Sir Alex Ferguson even used to encourage players to settle down, get married, so that basically they have that support system. And I feel like it's a lot of that human nature and human side of coaching doesn't really exist anymore. It doesn't really exist. Eric Ten Hag just needs to balance the squad he has. We have keepers, defenders, midfielders, and attackers. Just a matter of who he picks, how he sets them up, and how he'll make his in-game management and subs. And that's another point. Big up to Alumba for that. That's another point regarding the. I think Ten Hag's biggest flaw right now, it's not his man management. I don't think it's his man management. I don't think it's his lineups, because you see a pattern of not consistency but regular occurrences in the lineups. I think Ten Hag's biggest problem is his in-game management. I feel like he either makes subs too early or he makes them too late. We can look at the Galatasaray game. Martial came on the last 3 minutes, I think it was, of the game. Hannibal came off at halftime. I thought that was way too early. I felt like that was a game of physicality in the midfield. Obviously, I understood why Eriksen came on, because he did change the passage of possession for Manchester United in terms of going forward. But I feel like that substitution happened. And even in past games, I'm sure you lot have examples as well. There's been time and time again where Ten Hag makes substitutions way too late, or he just doesn't make the substitutions. And I feel like that is his current downfall. Lies within there is his in-game management. And I don't know if it's because he's being positive, but sometimes he comes out after the game in the press conferences and I'm thinking, did we watch the same game? Because he was in the I think, was it Galatasaray or was it, I think it was Crystal Palace, where he was saying, oh, we played well, you know, we should have come away with more. And I was like, we can't have watched the same game. There's no way. So sometimes I feel like he might say stuff just for the sake of it, for the sake of, you know, harmony in the dressing room, and you know, he doesn't want to say nothing too bad in press conference about his players. But I feel like sometimes also his in-game management and substitutions mess him up. I feel like sometimes when you watch, like last year, for example, guys, who is the Chelsea coach? Who the hell was the Chelsea coach last year? I feel like they had like 10 coaches last year. It was Potter, innit? It was Potter last year. First trip to Stamford Bridge under Ten Hag. I think it was Potter. And yeah, it was Potter. It was Potter. Graham Potter was the manager. I don't know if you don't remember, but tactically, Potter and Ten Hag, Potter, sorry, let me pronounce it properly before you get onto me. Potter and Ten Hag tactically were going toe to toe. Basically, Potter made it. I think it was substitution at like the 30th minute to try to deal with, you know, a tactical way that Ten Hag had set up, and then as a result, at halftime, Ten Hag made a substitution to basically try to counter that. In the end, we drew the game. But that's what I want to see. If a manager is set up tactically in a game, yeah, if a manager is set up tactically in a game, you can see it in the passages of play. You can see it in possession. You can see it in transition. You can see it in defense. You'll be able to identify it. But I feel like currently, for example, Galatasaray, that chance that like it's counter-attacking football when Eriksen came on. Eriksen would play a ball over the top to Rashford. Rashford was meant to square it to Bruno. It was a messed up pass that he did, and we ended up scuffing that chance. We just sometimes we play counter-attacking football. And I get it. Every game calls for different tactics. It calls for different decisions. It calls for alterations. But I don't think a lot of people would be mad if they could see that identity on the pitch. I feel like if we could see the identity during the game, if we could see the identity in the formation, in possession, etc., attacking, defending, all of that stuff, I don't think people would be as mad as they are right now. That's why I said, and this is a question, it's a yes or no question really for the crowd. Would you be more mad? Are you more mad when we lose a game and we play bad, or we lose a game and we play good? I know that sounds like a stupid question, but there's a reason I'm asking that, because I feel like, firstly, losing is never an option. I feel like when you lose a game and you played very well, i.e., you felt like you could have won the game, I feel like you're annoyed, you're frustrated, but you're like, okay, we'll get them next time. Next game, you feel more confident because you can build off that performance. Whereas I feel like when you lose and you absolutely play shit, excuse my language, but I feel like when you play crap on the pitch, there's nothing positive to take away from a game, from a loss. There's nothing to build on. There's nothing that you learned from. There's nothing where you can be like, oh, you know, we learn X, Y, Z. Next time we can do X, Y, Z. I feel like that's more of a difficult loss to take because there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Whereas when you've played good, there's light at the end of the tunnel because you know that you've got it in the bag to play well and perform well. That's what I think anyway. Erik Ten Hag waits for a miracle from his favourites because they always got the job done for him last season. They got the wins for him. That is true. That's true. Lose a game and play good because it hurts more. Yeah, I remember that Chelsea match. They played better after the subs. Yeah, it's when he made the changes at half time, which I felt like we should have won like 2-3. No, I can't lie. Big up to Koala in the chat, says I'm Erik Ten Hag out. He's back again. I'm Erik Ten Hag out, but no Erik Ten Hag inners have convinced me otherwise. The only being I can give blind faith to is God. Big up, I respect that. Shout out to Red Scare. Claire says, if you play well, you have every reason to think good things will come. Playing poorly is just a spiral. And I feel like that's what we're in right now. I genuinely think that's what we're in right now. It's not just a spiral. It's just things don't look like it's getting better, which is why every game, everyone's like, oh, we're going to lose. Every game that comes, people are like, oh, we're going to lose. Me, I'll be optimistic. So I'll say, yeah, we'll win. That's just me trying to see the silver lining in every cloud. But I feel like because the performances of recent have not been good, because of that, there's nothing to take away from it. I remember the Bayern Munich game. And people were happy with that performance. I don't think in any game where Manchester United score and then we equalize, we concede straight away, I can't be happy with that performance. Whether or not we win, because we've done it so much over the last couple of games. At what point, I'd say, do we stamp it out? At what point Do we stamp that out? Because I feel like that's also another big flaw of ours, if you want to call it a flaw. That's another big flaw of ours, is that every time we score, it's like we're guaranteed to concede every time without fail. And that's just why I feel like the last few games, I'm trying to think of really and truly the only game that I feel like, is there any game this season that we've lost that you feel that we deserve to lose because we weren't good? Because I'm thinking about it. We lost to Spurs. It wasn't a good performance. Basuma bossed us in the midfield. We lost to Arsenal. I was frustrated with that. I'm not gonna lie. Arsenal lost. I was annoyed with that. I feel like we could have got a draw, but again, we score and then concede straight away, and that's not good enough. I'm thinking of all the other losses that we've had this season. Brighton, don't think we deserve to win that. Bayern, don't think we deserve to win that. Galatasaray, we shot ourselves in the foot. Got a player sent off, concede straight away after we score each time. We shot ourselves in the foot. The goalkeeper making bad mistakes, players making poor decisions in possession. Really and truly, I'm not saying that I will never say that we deserve to lose the games, but I'm thinking, is there any games where we've lost this season and we've performed well? I'm not too sure. I can't name. I'm not gonna lie, I can't name any. On that note, guys, predictions for tomorrow. Just quickly get your predictions in the chat. Like I said, I'll be live at 7:20, which is in about 40 minutes. No, it's not in 40 minutes. About 35 minutes. It's about in 35 minutes, of course. I'll be live again for a vibe along. So I won't be, and that one will be a long one. That will be like 2 hours and a half. So make sure you lot come through and we can watch Man United versus Arsenal together, of course. But predictions in the chat, guys. Predictions in the chat, please, for tomorrow's game. Champions League nights are wild. And that's why I don't want to leave the Champions League there. Did the psychologist leave with Ragnick? We need to call him back. I think they need it. I definitely feel like the players definitely need it. I think what Eric Ten Hag needs to do is hand in his resignation letter. If you lot didn't know, Koala's not a fan of Eric Ten Hag and has been one of the first people I've seen that was saying Eric Ten Hag out. We will lose 3-1. Damn. Okay, so that's the first prediction of the night, saying that we will lose 3-1. I don't want to lie and say I think we'll win. But I feel like Brentford, we need to capitalize on Brentford not winning in 5 games. They have not won in the last 5 games. They've drawn or lost. We need to capitalize on that. We're coming off of the back of, okay, we've lost a few games in a row. We've lost 3 games in a row. We lost to Galatasaray. We lost to Palace. Oh, then we beat Palace. But then we lost by, okay, too much. I'm going to say 2-1. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. I think Højlund will get a goal. Relying on the fact that, we're at home and, Old Trafford, fortress settings, even though it's not been a fortress this year. But I don't think I can handle another loss, guys. I'm not joking. I don't think I can handle another loss. And I can't handle another loss going into international break, because you lot know this weekend is the last weekend before international break. I can't handle another 2 weeks of dwelling on the last how many losses that we've had and everyone over-analyzing it, and then a lot of leaks coming out and all of that. I can't handle that. So for the sake of that, I hope we win. For our own sake, 3 points. 3 points, nothing less, on Monday morning, on Sunday, sorry, when I'm watching, there's a show on DR Sports called Football Movement Culture. I think that's what it's called, with Fuad and Culture Cams and Mayowa. They got a little thing on there called 3-point collectors, i.e., whoever's team get 3 points. I want to be part of the 3-point collectors on Sunday when I watch that. I want to be part of the 3-point collectors. So please, for that sake, I have to say that we will win 2-1. That's all I have to say. Where is the optimism? Dead, gone, killed. That's how far we've come. It's very sad. It's very sad. Steffi says, sigh. That's all I can say. Red Scare Claire says, I want to say we'll win, but there's no way they are afraid of us. Both teams will be thinking this is our chance. 100% I agree. Koala says, I want the Glazers out first. Eric Ten Hag is not convincing with his methods. I know he leaves too when the new owners come in. Big up to Starlord, says, big up Mina, big up Starlord. Hope you are doing well. Like I said, I'm going with a 2-1 prediction. But that's me being humble. That's me being optimistic. That's me being positive. It's not fake positivity, because I do think we are good enough to beat Brentford. But like someone in the chat actually said, both teams will feel like they can get something, because both teams are coming into it not on a good run. It's as simple as that. We just have to hope. Of course, I will be live tomorrow after the game for a post-match review, whatever you want to call it. So make sure you come through. And like I said, I'll be live in exactly 30 minutes time. I'm going to go have some snacks, eat, whatever. And I'm going to come back. I'll be live again for the second vibe along of the season, Manchester United versus Arsenal. Get ready to boo Alicia Russo, of course, because she's coming back to Manchester. First home game of the season, man. You guys know what it is. Be sure to hit the like button. Make sure you lot subscribe. You lot know what it is, man. It's the road to 2K now. I hit the 1K mark. Now it's the road to 2K. Big up to everyone. And I hope you lot got your post notifications on. So when I do go live, you lot get notified straight away, man. You lot know what it is until 30 minutes time, because I hope to see some of you lot in the chat. Peace out, guys. Peace.